The video we have here is from within Chernobyl sarcophagus. The people filming this video appear to film various well-known, highly contaminated areas of the power plant, such as the elephant's foot and pieces of graphite from within the core. Throughout the video, you can see white spots jumping across the screen, which is actually a result of the high levels of radiation affecting the camera. The elephant's foot, which we can see in the video, is a huge mass of nuclear fuel, concrete and metals that was formed as a result of the fourth reactor's explosion. The elephant's foot is still generating heat and still melting down into the base of Chernobyl to this day, and is still hotter than the surrounding air's temperature due to the radioactivity. However, at one point it was actually burning at approximately half the temperature of the surface of the sun, so in comparison between now and then it's cooled down a significant amount. Back in 1986, being in the presence of the elephant's foot for just 200 seconds was enough to give you a lethal dose of radiation, and if you were stood next to it today, you would receive a lethal dose within a few hours. Ted Bundy is one of America's most famous serial killers. He was convicted of aggravated kidnapping, attempted murder, and burglary. He was apprehended for his crimes on August 16, 1975. He admitted to 36 killings, but hinted that the number could be way into the triple digits. However, despite the fact that he was put to death on the 24th of January 1989 by way of electric chair, there has been a constant fascination with him to this day. Partly due to the fact that he comes across as a normal, smooth-talking guy, which doesn't seem to correlate whatsoever with his horrendous crimes. One of his many victims was Georgianne Hawkins. She was just 18 years old at the time when Ted Bundy kidnapped and murdered her while she was en route to her sorority at the University of Washington in June 1974. This is audio of Ted Bundy confessing to the murder of Georgianne Hawkins to the interviewer. However, due to him expressing feeling unnerved by the presence of officers, asked to write down the name of his victim and proceeds to whisper his confession instead, as he didn't want the police to have any names at the point of the recording. He goes into graphic detail on what he did to the victim and where he left her. I'll play a short snippet of what's in the audio, however I won't play it in its full graphic depiction here.
Taken up the road about 25 to 50 yards and buried in a location about 10 yards west of the road on a rocky hillside.
Of course, the audio here is particularly unsettling. However, I don't want that to overshadow the fact that he's talking about someone's daughter or friend, which I think is sometimes forgotten when discussing Bundy's crimes. The kidnapping and murders happened in real life, to a real person, and affected real families, which is why it's important for audio like this and many others to be analysed by professionals to get an insight into the mind of people like Bundy, who confessed to 30 killings across 7 states by the time of his death, and why some people are compelled to commit such evil and violent crimes. I think this fits the theme of the video and could also help a lot of you guys out. So it should go without saying, but if you're going anywhere at night or in a rough part of town and you don't know where you are, it's always best to tell someone where you're going. Whether that's your mum, your dad, brother, sister, girlfriend, boyfriend, friend, neighbour, anything. Someone you trust, and tell them where you're going and when you're expecting to be back. Because this could potentially save your life. Something so simple and so small is often overlooked, I think, especially by teenagers and younger people. There's also different tracking apps, and they're definitely worth a look too, because you can add people into your circle that you trust and they can see where you are at all times, as it tracks your phone and where you are and your location. So those are also things to look into as well. I really think communication is the biggest factor though. Always letting someone you trust know where you are and where you're going to be and when you're expecting to be back. I know from my own personal life that this can really help people out. The footage we have here is from CBS News on the 31st of July 1989, 6 months after Bundy was put to death by the state by the way of electric chair. In the video, we can see groups of search parties searching for bodies of his victims as a result of his confession. The group actually did come across some human remains around the site that Bundy claimed he left one of his victims. One of the things Ted Bundy denied was ever carving his name into trees around the areas where he would murder his victims. However, one was found months after his death in the vicinity where he claimed to have buried his victim. Many people believe that he left these carvings as sort of breadcrumb trails and almost a subtle brag. For 3 days in a row in 2003, Hampton Court Palace security staff were called to close one of the fire exits close to the palace's clock court. On the first day, the CCTV revealed the door swinging open, but with nothing there behind it to open it with such force. However, on the second day, the door flew open again, but only this time for there to be a ghost-looking figure in period dress closing the door. The same thing happened again on the third day, however the ghost-looking figure wasn't there. On that second day, there was also a visitor who claimed to see a ghost in that area of the building. The lake we can see here is known as Lake Jargon in the Semiplasink test site in Kazakhstan, which is a nuclear test site in the 1960s where there was a number of 124 nuclear detonations. Gamma radiation levels around the lake reach about 1,000 times the local background in Kirchhoff. As well as this, scattered across the ground are chunks of fused sand and rock from the bombs dropped.